So, hello everyone, and welcome back for our final keynote and final session of today. As you have been noticing over the days, when you have a live event, there's always something you have to adjust. So, we made sure that we have Anna here on stage, whom you see already, and I will quickly hand over to her. But before, I love to introduce her to all of you. So, I'm super thrilled to have Anna from the Jane Goodall Foundation with us. I think she's live from Washington. Maybe she corrects me in a bit. And she is the executive director of the Jane Goodall Foundation, from where we had already yesterday our greeting words into the whole 2 interactive days. And Anna has a proven record of successfully building and executing complex strategies across mission-driven organizations. I think that sounds really good. So we have heard in the last days a lot about businesses, but there is also a lot in the world of NGOs and, like, I said, mission-driven organizations. She has a profound respect for everything around philosophies and is very much lobbying the mission of Jane Goodall herself, and spreads the word and the mission across different actions, initiatives, and also here for companies. So with that in mind, I very much welcome Anna here on stage, and I hope you are very fine. Like, how are you? Now I don't hear you. We had that before. Sometimes something stops working. So let's see how we solve that again. Can you mute and unmute yourself for once? Maybe that helps. And one thought, Anna, maybe you still have the other tool or something open, like in Safari or Chrome, you were using something else. Maybe you just close everything else that you had open. So everyone, perfect. Now we hear you.
You can hear me now. And can you see my slides?
We see your slides, you're live, you're online, and everyone hears you. So we had that before. People were jumping on and off the stage, so you did a good job. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I love technology when it works.
Amazing. Right. I love that too. So, we are very much looking forward to learn and hear from you how you are striving forward to bring climate action and many more parts, I think, biodiversity forward. So I think I'm going to leave stage. I'm here in the background. I also watch in the chat, and I will come back afterwards to close together with you.
Wonderful.
So thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you, Laura. Thank you to the entire team of Climate Choice and to all of you who are gathering here today. It is such a pleasure. It is such a privilege and an honor to have this opportunity to share some of my story, of my journey, and the work that I'm doing with my colleagues at the Jane Goodall Institute. And my hope is that I leave everyone today inspired, optimistic, and engaged, recognizing that we all have a role to play. We all can make a positive impact. And by coming together, as I know many of the conversations have been over the last couple of days here, we truly do have an opportunity to build a brighter future for our world, for our planet, and for one another. So with that, I'm going to get started here, and hopefully the technology will hold. As I shared, my name is Anna Rathmann. I have the great privilege of being the executive director of the Jane Goodall Institute. And at the Jane Goodall Institute, we talk a lot about hope and action. We recognize that hope is a verb for us. Hope is something that inspires all of us to get up each day, to come together, and to spread that message of hope in action and encouraging one another to remain optimistic and come together to build a brighter future for our world. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey. I loved this image. This image here reminded me so much of what I think many of us can relate to, which is that optimism, that wonder, that curiosity of being a young person. I absolutely was, and I remain committed to remaining curious and remaining inspired and thinking about how we can make an impact in our world. I started my career in conservation and in sustainability, working for the National Park Service in the United States. I worked at the first national park, Yellowstone National Park. I was a park ranger. And what that really impressed upon me was the complexities associated with these big causes. This was a cause around conservation, wildlife, and land conservation, but it really impressed upon me the role that many stakeholders have in making these sustainable programs last for generations. And this was something where everything from big national governments to local communities had to come together in order for it to be successful. From there, I spent time at National Geographic, where I had an opportunity to travel the world and to see beyond the bounds and the boundaries of the United States of what international conservation and research and science communications, the role that can all play in our collective dialogue. I had an opportunity to see some amazing places, to experience firsthand just how fragile these ecosystems are and this beautiful planet on which we live and the creatures that inhabit it. I had the opportunity to work with extraordinary colleagues. Here I am in sub-Saharan Africa. This is actually in Botswana, working on a project called Rhinos Without Borders, looking to reintroduce and relocate rhinos into very, very delicate ecosystem in Botswana's Okavango Delta. And what this really impressed on me, and what I had the great privilege of doing here, was working with some absolutely inspiring and extraordinary colleagues who really devote their lives, their energies, and their legacy to ensuring that this planet that we live on maintains its biodiversity, remains in balance, and that all wildlife and humans can coexist. So really extraordinary experiences. And it was while I was working on some of these projects in Africa that I received a phone call from this woman who many of you will recognize, Dr. Jane Goodall. Dr. Jane Goodall is a world famous scientist. She's somebody who really changed the way that we as humans view ourselves in the world. She impressed upon all of us and continues to invite us to view the world as this complex web of interconnectivity, something where she often uses the analogy of a tapestry, where these threads, when they are pulled out, begin to unweave that beautiful tapestry of life. Dr. Goodall also changed the way that we view animals. One of her most famous contributions to our dialogue, our collective dialogue, was surrounding viewing animals as individuals, viewing animals as having emotions, and viewing animals as the complex social interactions that they have. So it is an absolute pleasure to work with Dr. Goodall to continue to advance her 50 years of work through her namesake organization, working with my colleagues around the world to advance these subjects. Specifically in Africa, we have large landscape-wide conservation programs that ensure that the species which Dr. Goodall was so famous for teaching us and researching, chimpanzees, can continue to thrive in wild settings. We also have programs working with local governments, working with young people, working through educators to build that next generation of environmentalists and stewards of our planet. One thing that we take very seriously at the Jane Goodall Institute is working with communities. Jane has always recognized that if you're going to build something that's sustainable, that has a commitment for decades and generations in the future, it's going to mean a lot of listening. It's going to mean a lot of collaboration. It's going to mean a lot of working together towards a shared goal. We do that through working with our communities that are in the environments where we have projects, and it's something that is a huge strength of the Institute, and recognizes that, again, all of us has an important role to play. All of these projects are really predicated on this idea of hope, though, coming back to that initial theme, that we truly would not be able to engage in any of these projects without having hope for the future, and a brighter future at that. Hope is not something that we view as being easily attained. It's a choice to remain hopeful. It is a verb, as I said earlier. It's something that we work hard at every day, ensuring that that hope remains viable and that it is something that we can transfer to others. Dr. Goodall often talks about hope. She uses this analogy or the story of hope as being in a dark tunnel. And there's this little bit of light, a little star maybe at the end of that dark tunnel. But we don't sit in the darkness at the end of the tunnel and expect that light to come to us. We don't expect that light to grow. No. Instead, we work hard to crawl over the obstacles, to work around those tight spaces, and to bring others along with us so that we are always walking towards that light. And with each step, it is getting brighter and brighter and illuminating the possibilities for the future. One of our greatest reasons for hope, which I invite all of you to be a part of, is Roots and Shoots. Roots and Shoots is an extraordinary global program focused on young people of all ages, where they come together and through a very simple model that we can all adapt into a community-wide programs, we get inspired, we explore our communities, we take action in our communities, and we celebrate those achievements because, again, every individual matters. With that, I would love to ask Laura if she could play a short video that talks a little bit more about Roots and Shoots.
It's been an amazing journey, this life of mine. This planet has filled me with the wonder of all living. It's been an amazing journey, this life of mine. This planet has filled me with the wonder of all living things, great and small. We cannot ignore this earth that surrounds us, that feeds us, shelters us, replenishes our bodies and our souls, and stretches our imaginations, where animals, plants, air, water, all care for us. We're all interconnected, people, animals, our environment. When nature suffers, we suffer. And when nature flourishes, we all flourish. I do believe in the possibility of a world where we can live in harmony with nature, but only if every one of us does our part to make that world a reality, so that when you look back over your journey, your life, you can truly say, I did make a difference.
Thank you, Laura. That is such inspiring words from Dr. Goodall. Laura, could I ask that you play the other video too? There are two videos that I wanted to share with this audience, and if I could ask you to play the other video as well, that would be great.
It all began on Jane Goodall's front porch in Tanzania, when a group of students told her that they felt powerless, thinking about the problems around them. She encouraged them to use their voices and ideas to address the issues they saw head-on. Roots and Shoots was born. Now, Roots and Shoots is a worldwide movement of thousands of passionate young people making big impact, and it's growing. Whether it's natural disasters, homelessness, pollution, or even climate change, Roots and Shoots youth are taking on challenges and creating real positive change across the globe. Youth aren't just our future, they are our present, and they're changing the world today.
Thank you so much. Both of those videos really do a beautiful job highlighting the work of the Jane Goodall Institute and inviting all of us to be a part of it. I just want to share a quick thing that we love and we think is really beautiful. The voice, the narrator for the Roots and Shoots, that second video, is Dr. Jane Goodall's grandson. And that's something where we talk about this intergenerational opportunities to come together and work on projects and programs that affect all of us in our planet and our lives. That's one beautiful example that we have within our institute is the role of Dr. Goodall's family. So as we heard with Roots and Shoots, it is truly a global community. These are projects which give agency to everyone to be a part of. The projects look different depending on the communities and the needs of that community. They may be something where it's a beach cleanup of a school, or it may be something that's more about building a community around environmental or social issues. These are things where we are recognizing that young people have the opportunity to make changes, to embrace their future, and to be active change agents in it. Because ultimately, it is that youth and the young people who are going to be inheriting our world. One of the early stories from Roots and Shoots, the origin story of this, is something that I think we can all relate to, where Dr. Goodall 30 years ago sat down on her porch area in Tanzania with a group of young people. And those young people were expressing a sentiment of feeling lost and overwhelmed by the challenges facing our planet and their inability to change that future. And it was through those conversations and imparting to these young people that they do have a stake in their future, they can make a difference, that Roots and Shoots was born. And as that meeting was coming to a close, Dr. Goodall said to the group, well, so can we do this? And they thought for a moment, and one of the attendants there that day, that fateful day, said, yes, I think we can do it. And Dr. Goodall challenged them and said, no, no, no. It's not we can do it. Together we will do it. And that's a message that we talk a lot about within our organization, and I encourage all of us to embrace. Together we can, and together we will. Because ultimately, every individual matters. Every individual has a role to play, each one of you. And every individual makes a difference. And so as I close today, I welcome you to be a part of making that positive impact in our world through your work in sustainability, through your work in your professional lives and in your personal lives. Join us in making that positive impact for our world. So thank you to everyone. Thank you again for your time. And I would be happy to take any questions if there are any. I'll stop my screen share now and
yeah, thank you, Anna, so much. And everyone who was joining, you might have seen there was a little bit a hectic moment before. We had still some tech issues. So it's always hard, Anna, to come on stage and join in, and you don't know what's happening for us so far. So it's great you took that jump over the big lake and then also to us here in the online session. And thanks so much for presenting your work, the work of the Jane Goodall Foundation from Jane herself, and sharing with us that together we will make it happen, because that's really what the last 2 days were all about. Not just seeing the challenges, but really going into the action mode and not just discussing and wishing, but finding collaborations and bringing actions forward. So that would be actually my very concrete question also to you. And I also encourage everyone from the audience to still share questions. But yeah, how can actually companies really support your mission? Where is it that, there's a best collaboration way?
Yeah, thank you. I always love getting that question of how can more people get involved, because Our goal, our mission, our work is truly global. The Jane Goodall Institut has offices in over 26 countries around the world. There are roots and shoots, chapters, and projects happening in many more than that. It is truly a global program. So wherever in the world you are, there's an opportunity to get involved. One of the things that we've seen a lot of really beautiful growth in recently was corporate partners of ours will implement roots and shoots activities as part of their employee engagement programs. So part of a company's sustainability goals or environmental impact goals, we can partner with those companies and actually institute roots and shoots as part of that, because it is such a community building, community outreach, and community impact project. So that is one way, as you're thinking about your own employers, your own companies, or anywhere else, Roots and Shoots, the model is really a beautiful way to bring people together, and as a company to encourage our employees and our team members to take action and to really be that hope in action and make a positive impact.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think that's a very lovely, not only idea, but possibility to really go into impact creation with the whole team. I think we had that critical view somewhere during the last days where someone said it doesn't stop with like fair trade coffee in your kitchen and like maybe reducing plastic by ordering food, but like really seeing that we all create that action. And for sure in your business model and supply chain, but then the whole team probably builds a stronger culture all around it when they can go into that. And maybe I have also one question which I find really tricky always myself to answer. So sorry to bring it over, but we had it also in the very beginning when we opened. We had a keynote looking also into, okay, we see that the CO2 numbers are rising. It's something we can measure quite a lot, and we have a lot of attention maybe now, not so much as we would need. But then we have this twin crisis of biodiversity losses, and it's like very much combined, but it also accelerates in such a strong way. And yes, we can measure how many animals are actually dying daily and really vanishing from the planet, but it's maybe not that loud yet and not so much seen. How do you, or what are your main arguments maybe for companies or anyone in that field to combine these topics? Are they combinable, or how can we bring that topic as well forward and not be maybe too blindfolded looking at one CO2 number sometimes?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think the way that you can combine them is to recognize that interconnectivity between all of these systems. So all of these systems, whether it's looking at CO2, whether it's looking at biodiversity loss, whether it's looking at any other kind of climate mitigation tactics, they are all interconnected. It is truly a system. And this is something where, you know, when Jane talks about that tapestry of life, that's the illustration that she uses. But what that is referring to is that all of these different levers are intertwined with one another. So how can you bridge between those conversations? How can you make sure that we are taking it from this place of an academic conversation to something where we are really reaching out to those who maybe don't have a background in that? I think that's something that we all need to be so aware of in all of our work, is that we don't just speak to one another, that we really reach beyond our own circles and the people who are well versed in these subjects, and we make our messages, we make our mission something that is attainable and understandable and attractive to those who are outside of it. So, you know, I think that's part of it too, is the messaging and reaching beyond ourselves. And I would just say we always tend to come back to that interconnectivity. You know, when you look at something that can be a very complex subject, there are ways that it always ties back to us, and it ties back to the individual. For example, one of our projects that we were talking about and thinking about in Roots and Shoots a lot centers around pollinators. So this idea that through different agricultural practices and biodiversity loss, we are losing these very critical pollinator species, whether they be honeybees or butterflies, moths, even bats. these critical species where you can say, well, I don't really care if all the bees go away. I don't like being stung. And you can have people say that, but if you can tie that narrative back to them, that actually it is these pollinators that enable plants to grow, and actually that's what's feeding us as a species and all other species, suddenly you see the value of that component in this tapestry. You see the value of that thread. So if there are a way to bring these bigger subjects so that they can be more personally identifiable and internalized, I think that's always going to be a really strong way to message, communicate, and bridge between them.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think, as you say, it can be laughable to think about beans, but then, in Germany, we actually already have an issue with 2 less beans, and then the whole agriculture system being affected by it, right? It's not happening by itself. Someone is doing that job.
Exactly.
Thanks for drawing the attention to that point. I almost felt that was a lovely, inspiring last words already, but I would frame it in that way. What would you wish for decision makers and employees, people in companies, to maybe start from next week onwards? What should be an action, or what do you feel is something you would want them to take out of at least what they hear from you, but maybe in general, what's your mission or passion you want to share with everyone to get more involved?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is I would invite, challenge, encourage everyone to remain hopeful. So many of the challenges we have facing in front of us now can be very overwhelming. And this is something that we hear, quite frankly, from a lot of young people who we work with and communities of young people, is that there is this idea of eco-anxiety. That's a phrase that we often hear here in the States, is eco-anxiety. And what it relates to is this idea that these subjects are so big, they're so complex. How can I, as a single person, make any impact? And my challenge and my invitation to everyone here and to everyone who hears this is to not allow that line of thinking to govern your actions. Because as I said earlier, every individual, truly each one of us every day makes an impact. And we have the power and we have the ability to decide what that impact is. So if there's something small that you can do, if there is, I'll come back to the pollinators. If it is planting a bee or a butterfly friendly garden, that's a wonderful way to contribute and make a positive impact. If it's something larger scale that you have a relationship with and an influence with your company or with other companies, to invite groups to come together around a Roots and Shoots project where you can make a positive impact as a collective community, I encourage you to do that. And our team is very happy to help with that wherever in the world you are. We will be happy to connect you with someone locally that can support you there. And then finally, just as I said, remaining optimistic, recognizing that this beautiful planet on which we live is truly a living system, and we all have the power and opportunity to make a positive impact.
Thank you so much. Also pointing out the invitation to really connect to you and get into collaboration. So what is the best way to reach out to you personally?
Yep, absolutely. Well, we have our website, and I would also encourage you to follow us on social media. We do quite a bit of social media postings around this, both for Roots and Shoots and for the Jane Goodall Institut. And then our websites, depending on where in the world you are, we will have specific websites for those areas, and in many cases, specifically tailored social media as well.
Okay, so I hear out you trust your team. No one needs to go directly just to you, even though you can be found. But then, maybe in Germany, it's best to connect to the German Jane Goodall Foundation and to get things started there. And follow all your work. And thanks a lot for taking the time, for doing the work you do. Totally honored and very much, appreciated. And we got so many amazing feedback in the last days that it's such an honor that you are part of it, that you have been sharing the words from Jane. Also today in that video was already here a comment that this is such a wonderful video to share, and so emotional. And so thanks really bringing that mission forward. It's not about numbers, it's not about Excel sheets, it's not only about designing business models, but it's really to have an impact on the world and all the life around us. So thanks for really highlighting that and bringing it even to the next generation that definitely needs more climate hope, I think in all that areas.
I agree.
So very much thank you, Anna.
Thank you. And I know this group will make those positive impacts. So thank you for all your work. Thank you for bringing us together. And thank you to everyone for the work that you're doing.
Thanks.